Our guest tonight is Larry Pinkney, activist and a member of the original Black Panther Party. He joins us to talk about the situation in Ferguson, Missouri, and also what he thinks about President Obama's job performance. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Pinkney.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
All right, now I'll tell you, Larry, I just had some boots on the ground out in Ferguson, Missouri. We still have a team out there right now. And what are your thoughts about the situation? We'd been out there since, I guess, last Tuesday, and we saw them gas peaceful protesters, but that's not to say that everybody in the crowd was peaceful. You definitely had some provocateurs trying to stir things up, throwing Molotov cocktails, throwing rocks at the police. So what is your general take on the situation?
More of the same. You know, what my take on the situation is that we're going to see more and more of the Asian provocateur activity. It's not just in Ferguson, but it's throughout this country. I think that the tragedy in Ferguson, Missouri, can and should be turned into something very positive. My first concern, frankly, is that the so-called mainstream, I call it corporate stream, lane stream, vomit stream media, is trying to put this in a narrative of black versus white. Mm-hmm. It is not a black versus white situation. It is a situation where all people, black, white, brown, red, and yellow people, have a stake in this. We all have a stake in this together. So that's my general thought on that. But let me say very quickly that this is not just about Michael Brown or Michael Brown's family. Let's also remember the young white man by the name of Brandon Ellingson, that's Ellingson, who died in the custody, also in Missouri, of the state troopers, state police of Missouri. And this is quite recent. Again, his name is Brandon Ellingson. And I emphasize that our struggle is it's we the people. It's a constitutional struggle. Mm-hmm. And my real concern, frankly, is that there are more than enough. In fact, we shouldn't have any provocateurs out there working for both the police department and the federal government. So we need to be aware of that. And you know, the media, the so-called media, and I want to compliment you, Jakari, and all the crew of InfoWars for the tremendous job that you all have been doing, and also placing yourselves in jeopardy. But you know what? That's what the struggle is all about.
Yeah, and I definitely appreciate that, Mr. Pinkney, because just like you said, you have to go through those to those extremes to bring people the truth, because we want that to be exposed, what's going on. Like I said, there's plenty of blame to go around. Not everything the police do is great. Not everything the crowd in general does is great. But as you pointed out, this is not a white thing. It's not a black thing. It's not a Hispanic thing. It's not an Asian thing. This is about people just coming together saying we've had enough of the police brutality, we've had enough of the unaccountability, and we want some answers in this community, not just here, all around the country. You talk about other white people who have been victims of police brutality. Kelly Thomas in California famously was beaten to death screaming for his parents, "Daddy, please save me from these vicious attacks." But we want a peaceful resolution all the way around. So with this said, Mr. Pinkney, we've seen a lot of people comment on the situation going on in Ferguson, many people who are the supposed leaders of the black community. And I'm sure you know the names as well as I do. But what do you think about the response of these supposed black leaders to this situation?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you said supposed black leaders, because they in fact are not leaders. They are misleaders, M-I-S, misleaders of not only the black community, but people of all colors. So, you know, you have the Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons, the Eric Holders, and of course, none other than the illustrious drone man, secret kill list, double talking Barack Obama. None of these people represent a genuine leadership of any people, be they black, white, brown, red, or yellow. And we need to understand that leadership begins in the community. In the community, there are plenty of people in that community who are articulate, who have lived in the community many years, and who should be being supported. But instead, what the media, the so-called mainstream media, is doing is they are honing in on everything that they can do to divide people, to keep people in fear. They are avoiding dealing with the root causes. And I say causes, not cause, because it's plural, many causes. But they are avoiding dealing with these causes so that these causes can be rectified. What people want is not revenge. What people want is pure and simple justice. That's all. I don't care what their color is, what our color is. We're all a part of this human family, like it or not. So that's my thought on these so-called leaders, these de facto misleaders. They're part and parcel. In very large measure, they are part and parcel of the problem.
I noticed you also mentioned President Obama there, and I know you've been keeping tabs on him and his job performance. What do you think about his recent handling of not only this situation, but just how he's supposedly running things in general?
Well, I think Drone Man, Secret Kill List, NDAA signing, double talking President Obama has shown repeatedly that his interests are not, I repeat, are not the interests of everyday, ordinary, struggling black, white, brown, red, and yellow people. I think his job performance is pathetic. I think his job performance shows over and over again that he could give one. Let me keep from cursing here. He could care less. He could care less about the people. His interests are maintaining Barack Obama's status and power. That's all Barack Obama cares about. And his minions, be they Democrat or Republican, are about the same thing. And this is really important that we understand. You know, they say manure rolls downhill. Well, it sure does. And it starts right at the White House on down. So it's one thing to talk about the militarization of the police. And yes, we should be deeply concerned about that. But we've got to understand who is behind the militarization of the police forces. And that has to be who? The commander-in-chief, the chief executive. This Barack Obama is terrible for the entire country, for people of all colors.
Now, talking about this could tie into the Ferguson, but just the larger issue at hand, the targeting of journalists and also activists. I know you're a prominent activist, have been for many years. So when you see these videos of peaceful people, whether it be Ferguson or any place else, you know, somebody who's obviously a cameraman walking around with his camera, even has his press badge, or you see a peaceful demonstrator activating their First Amendment. You know, they want to come out here and show their support. What do you think about this when these people are viciously attacked by these police state tactics?
I think this is an egregious transgression of the U.S. Constitution. You see, and, you know, I had warned about this way back in 2007 and 2008. In fact, in 2008, I wrote an article called, and this is before Obama was installed, I wrote an article called An Obama Presidency, More of the Same, Only Worse, all right? And when you see the clamping down, and I mean the vicious clamping down and arrest of the press, what does this tell us? Don't our so-called leaders see this? Shouldn't they be outraged? Shouldn't they be saying, no, this is a violation of the constitutional and human rights of the press, and frankly, of the peaceful protesters as well?
Exactly, because we're out there, just as I mentioned, they're shooting pretty much indiscriminately rubber bullets. When we were there Wednesday night, our very own Joe Biggs was shot by a rubber bullet. You know, I'm having to jump over fences so they don't shoot me with exploding canisters. Josh, our cameraman, got hit by some tear gas, began vomiting instantly. And you're talking about the mainstream proposal, the way they're handling the situation. You know, when we were out there, I believe it was Saturday night, Sunday morning, when they enacted the curfew, you know, the original reports were that they weren't shooting tear gas. at the protesters. That's definitely not the case. We were on the grounds, had 3 people out there. And then the first wave, Mr. Pinkney, they were shooting tear gas. And they originally said they were shooting this in response to a shooting that didn't happen until later. So they shoot out the tear gas, then a shooting happens, but they say this is the original reason why they shot the tear gas in the first place. But people were all too happy to regurgitate the talking points that they were told from the police department.
Exactly, which is why, my brother, I refer to it as vomit. That you picked right up on it. Regurgitation. In my latest article in intrepidreport.com, I wrote an article loosely titled "Rejecting the Government and Corporate Stream Vomit." Why? Because it's a regurgitation of lies, repeated lies. Why would, in fact, the police or any other authority for that matter be firing tear gas? I mean, tear gas, people don't understand what tear gas, or for that matter, what a rubber bullet will do to a human's body. Mm-hmm. Tear gas has terrible effects that are long-lasting, dealing with one's ability to breathe, one's ability to see, one's ability to think clearly. This is physical and psychological terror being waged against the people and the press of the United States of America. This cannot be allowed. It cannot be continued. And I say this loud and clear to Democrats and Republicans and to Drone Man, Mr. President Obama, you know better. Shame on you.
Yeah, shame, because people need to be held accountable. We just don't want to hear, oops, we're sorry, we'll try to do better next time. You know, somebody needs to be held accountable for these actions. So, Mr. Pinkney, can you give us your final thoughts and also tell us how we can keep up with your work?
Yes, first, again, I want to thank all of you. And again, I want to thank you and the great crew that has been working with you. I know you were right on the ground in Ferguson, Missouri. Stay strong. Keep on doing that. That's what we need.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's the truth. The truth is the truth. So I have to say that my final thoughts, well, I won't call them exactly my final thoughts. My final thoughts on this are that we, the people, must unite. We must overcome our petty differences. We must overcome the fear-mongering, the hate-mongering that so many elements are out there peddling. We must overcome it and work together, as we said in the original Black Panther Party, not the so-called new Black Panther Party. As we said in the original Black Panther Party, all power to the people, black, white, brown, red, and yellow people. We must do this thing and win this thing together. It's a long struggle. Thank you so much. You can find my writings at intrepidreport.com. Please check them out, my writings and other great writings, and at blackactivistwg.org. Again, blackactivistwg, which stands for writersguild.org. And thank you so much. Please be careful. Please stay strong. Keep on keeping on.
Thank you, Mr. Pinkney. Larry Pinkney, original Black Panther. Well, that's it for this edition of the InfoWars Nightly News. But